You've heard the whispers, secret rubs, magic injections, all that voodoo barbecue stuff, but today we're diving deep into what really wins barbecue competitions. I joined a top barbecue team on their road to the biggest barbecue competitions in the world, the Jack Daniel's Invitational and the American Royal, and guess what? I'm spilling all of their secrets, including one that I was definitely not prepared for, and I don't think I'm actually ready to use it if that's what it takes to win.
The thing that most people don't realize about barbecue is you don't use wood in the fire.
Whoa!
No, we'll share it. We'll share it.
She's good. She's done.
Can you just turn that off for now, buddy?
He mentioned that he uses smart water.
What's HP?
HP sauce.
So grab a cold one and fire up the pit, because we're going through some barbecue secrets today. Let's get smoking. Tip number 1, know your butt. You'd think that smoking a pork butt is easy. You just fire up the pit, you smoke it until it's tender and falls apart, and then you're done. You call it a day. But Darren from notorious P.I.G, the barbecue wizard himself, showed me there's more to it. Pork butt is actually a collection of different muscles, each with its own taste and texture, much of which is lost when most of us just take that pork and mash it all up and serve it on buns. For example, there's the famous money muscle, which is basically the very end of the back loin, which is why it's so tender. Then you've got what's called the bacon muscle underneath the fat cap, the mysterious tubes, which are behind the money muscle, and Darren's personal favorite, the horn muscle, which is wrapped around the bone. And he was pretty bummed about this particular pork butt because we were competing in a double header in this competition. There was the prairie dog on the bow, and then the next day there was another competition called barbecue on the bow. And then later in the year, they'll be going to the Jack and the American Royal. But in this competition, all the meat was supplied, and the organizers really wanted to challenge the competitors. So one of the meats was a boneless pork butt, and Darren really didn't like that.
I just find there's a couple muscle groups around the bone that we like to put in our box and we like to use for chunk. The bone just kind of gives it A, little bit of structure, and B, a little bit of protection from drying out.
What about Darren's technique? What does he do? Well, he injects the pork, he rubs it, he smokes it to 193 Fahrenheit for the money muscle, removes the money muscle, puts it in a Cambro, and then cooks the rest of the butt to 200 degrees plus until it's super tender. Oh, and this is something I haven't seen before. Darren doesn't wrap his pork butt at all. He just smokes it all up until it's tender, and then he wraps it and he puts it in the Cambro to rest, which really maximizes the bark and smoke flavor. Now, I don't think you could do this on something like an offset smoker with more convection and more dry of an environment, because it might dry out the pork butt too much. But on the Old Hickory Pits cabinet smoker that Darren is using, which has more humidity inside, less airflow, I think that's why he can get away with it. And that's a very important point. He really stressed to me, you gotta know your cooker, and if you're taking techniques or an entire program of cooking from a different team, you really need to adapt it to your specific smoker, because that team might be cooking on drums and you're cooking on an offset smoker, which cook meat completely differently. Tip number 2, inject everything, but not too much. Notorious P.I.G has a motto, if it's meat, inject it. But here's the twist, they've learned the hard way not to overdo it. You can go from mouth-watering barbecue bliss to salty, hammy disaster really quick. So to avoid this over-injection trap, they use a fancy injector called the Spit Jack, which can be used to precisely control the amount of injection that's going into the meat.
My name is Graham Sherman. I am the founder of the Toolshed Brewing Company, also the notorious P.I.G barbecue team. So for injections for me, ever since day one, starting in competition, here we are 10 years later and we're going to the World Championships, the Jack Daniel's Invitational and the American Royal. But day one when we first started out and didn't know what we were doing and how we were going to get started, I've always been in love with this injection system, the Spit Jack. Probably because it just looks like a freaking gun. I love anything that looks over-engineered. Today, I just found out that we get to try out the newest version.
That's the Spit Jack Pulse.
Yes. What I love about these things is always the adjustability of how much flows through the tube with each push. So when I'm doing a big turkey, sure, I'm trying to push a lot of butter and herbs into that turkey, but like, the amount of push for each time you pull that trigger, like that's pretty incredible to have that level of fine detail.
It's like an exact volume every single pull, right?
So and that's a lot of what, in my opinion, barbecue is it really is a science. I mean, it's just smoke and meat and sauce, but really there's infinite variables. And when you can identify those variables, isolate them, and control them one at a time and see what works and what doesn't, but then the next time you go to repeat it, you know it'll be repeatable because you use the exact amount of the exact same injection with the exact amount of push per, you know, like that's the way it works for me in beer. That's how I create the same beer every time. You don't want to come and have a beer and say, oh, it tastes way different than it did last time. And that's the way it is for barbecue. So for us to be able to do R&D, try to get better, try to get to this point where we did qualify for the World Championships, that's the way we do it, is we identify one variable at a time and control it and see the results and then have that repeatability, right? I always like to get a little bit of a pocket when I go in. And whoops, that's too much. Let's scroll that back a little bit. There we go. It will go shooting out through the fibers of the meat if you push too much in. And I just go nice and close, create a little pocket. Try to get on the light here. Create that little pocket and push a little bit in there.
And what are you injecting with?
So this is, we use a company called Cosmos, which is one of my favorite companies for creating rubs and injections and sauces. And this one is called
Smokehouse Reserve?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I use too.
Yeah.
Oh, this stuff is great.
It's great. Yeah, so Smokehouse Reserve is a great one. It's, you know, it's got all the great bits that create that you know, that moisture and keep things you know, keep that moisture in the meat, but also there's that little bit of extra beefiness and a little bit of smokiness. So I don't know, it's we've tried them all, man. I think I've tried every single injection on the planet, and this is the one that has so far gotten us, you know, really great results.
So you mentioned that you're going to the Jack this year?
Yes, the Jack is a pretty special thing. You know, when you win a National Grand Championship event, it's pretty special. You get invited to the American Royal, which is the World Series of Barbecue. It's the biggest and oldest running competition in the world. 500 teams come down to Kansas City to, you know, to see how they compete against the best in the world. And there's one level above that, and that's the Jack Daniel's Invitational World Championships. So there's certainly not 500 teams there. I don't even think there's 100. And so each state might only get one team. Like, you have to be the state champion of Texas to go. So imagine a place like Texas, one team goes to the Jack Daniel's Invitational. And a lot of other countries don't get any teams. And so for Canada to get you know, drawn and to have a team that gets to go down and represent Canada at the Jack Daniel's Invitational is pretty special. Whether you like Jack Daniel's or not, they definitely represent the highest level of achievement on the planet in barbecue, and this is the first time that we've actually made it as our team, Notorious P.I.G. So, no joke, I cried when we got drawn. It was a very emotional day with all the, you know, money we've spent, the sacrifice being away from the families on the weekend, and to get to go down to Lynchburg, Tennessee, at Jack Daniel's and compete at that level is yeah, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. So we're pretty beside ourselves.
And
grateful.
I heard you guys were waiting for that phone call or the notification about whether you won.
We were sitting in the brewery, and I have a Jack Daniel's cutting board that I made out of barrel staves of Jack Daniel's, and we were rubbing it for luck, like as if it was a genie. And we were drinking Jack Daniel's in hopes that it would happen. And you know, the day that they're going to announce it, and they actually announce it on their Facebook page, and we were sitting there, and next thing you know, both our phones started exploding, and we looked, and there's your name, you know, being selected by Jack Daniel's to represent Canada. And it's, you know, it's a funny thing, because, you know, I got lots of friends, they compete in running and biking. You can go to the World Championships for doing some pretty incredible things. I think it's just as cool to go to the World Championships for cooking fatty meat, right? That's just that's just where I'm at, right? I might not make it for ultra marathon running, but I'll make it for barbecuing, right?
If you guys want to check out the Spit Jack Pulse, I'll link it in the description section below. Funny story, Rob Reinhart, who is the most decorated, award-winning barbecue pitmaster in Canada, actually showed up to our tent, and he needed to borrow an injector, so we gave him the Spit Jack Pulse, and now I can honestly say that the Spitjack Pulse is used by champions. Rob's Prairie Smoke barbecue sauces and rubs are amazing, and Notorious P.I.G. uses a lot of them as their secret weapon. Definitely check out his rubs and sauces. I will link them below. Tip number 3, give your rib bones some TLC. Graham Sherman is the rib guy on the team, and this dude knows his stuff. One trick that Graham showed me that really blew my mind is massaging the rib bones when they're partially cooked at around 140, 150 degrees. That helps them pull back from the meat, and it shows the bones, so it just looks really good in the box, and the judges love that. And as if that's not enough, he also scrapes off the black bits from the ends of the bone to make them look picture perfect. I've never heard of that being done, but I'm definitely gonna use that in the future because it makes the ribs look a lot better. Look at those ribs, that's so good I'd frame that picture. Tip number 4, enjoy the event. Yes, even the dishes. Barbecue competitions aren't just about cooking, they're really about community. Whether you're on fire watch at 3 a.m. or washing dishes with your new best buddy, there's always something to love. For me, it was chilling under the northern lights while tending the fire. And hey, even dish duty turned into a great chat with Dean, who is another member of the Notorious P.I.G. team. Who knew scrubbing pans could be so therapeutic? By the way, Barbecue on the Bow is the longest running barbecue competition in Canada, and people even come up from the US to compete in it. In fact, a team from Colorado won grand champion at the Barbecue on the Bow that we just competed in. So come on up to Calgary and compete in this competition. You can also check out Banff and Lake Louise and the mountains, which are absolutely amazing. So you can make kind of a trip out of it, but highly recommend this competition. I've been competing in it for years and it's so fun. The community is so amazing. Tip number 5, create layers of flavor. Notorious P.I.G. doesn't just slap on one rub and call it a day. They like to layer it like it's barbecue lasagna. 3 different rubs, custom injections, secret spritzes, and a whole lot of trial and error. And that's an area I need to up my own personal barbecue competition game in, is flavor. I concentrate a lot on techniques to achieve perfect tenderness, but I kind of skip over the flavor aspect. So this was a good reminder that flavor wins. But sometimes I question, why put 3 different rubs on your meat? Why can't you just find one rub that's really good and just use that one? Isn't there a rub out there that incorporates all those 3 rub flavors? I don't know, it's just been a weird concept for me, but now that I've got multiple rubs coming out, I'll probably be like, yeah, you put the Smoke Trails brisket rub on, and then you get the Let's Go rub, and then you sprinkle that on. Is it to sell more rub? Is it to make us feel like we're just doing something? I don't know, you guys be the judge. Here is Graham and Darren's opinion on that.
Why do you think that a rub company hasn't just taken those 3 particular rubs that you love so much and bottled them all in the same bottle so you don't have to use 3 different bottles?
I don't think rub companies think that way. I think somebody goes, this is what I want something to taste like, right? And then it's only when you say, oh, we compete, and what I'm trying to create is a flavor profile. This rub's delicious, but it's a little too hot. So I'm gonna add some sweet. And then this rub needs a little umami, and this, or I don't get that good enough smoke ring, so I gotta add something that's got a little MSG. Like, it's only when you actually think about what are we actually trying to achieve that we start to put a program together that creates, what you're looking at right now with, multiple layers that are all trying to do something different, for, what we're doing right here, right?
So there's no one best ultra rub that you could use?
No. There's no secret weapon, I don't think. Maybe there is.
I'd spend a lot less on rub if that was the case.
Yeah. I've never once ever seen anybody in barbecue say, this is the one. You put this on, you win every time.
Well, unless it's their rub that they're selling.
Right, that's right. They're selling something, right?
Speaking of rubs, I have my new general purpose barbecue rub coming out on Amazon. I'll link it in the description section below. It's called Let's Go! And Notorious P.I.G. was nice enough to add it as a finishing rub on their chicken, and we actually got called top 10 for chicken, so my rub is now award-winning. Again, you can get it on Amazon in the US. I'll link it in the description section below. Not in Canada yet, unfortunately, but I will work on that. Tip number 6, there are no silver bullets. Here's the big reveal that I alluded to at the beginning of this video. There are no magical spells or secret cheat codes to winning a barbecue competition. Notorious P.I.G. wins consistently because they've been perfecting their cooking program through endless practice, experimentation, and a crazy amount of dedication. They invest their time, money, and even sacrifice family time constantly to compete in barbecue competitions. They hone their skills, and they've built a roster rock solid game plan. Graham literally wakes up every 15 minutes to tend his smoker at competitions. He sets his alarm every 15 minutes, wakes up, puts another log on the fire, goes back to sleep for 15 minutes. I honestly don't think that he's getting the benefit of any sleep whatsoever with that many interruptions, but that's the amount of dedication that he has. Now, these guys have fun and socialize and have a couple beers, but behind the scenes, everything is running like a military operation. Everyone knows what they're doing, everything gets done at the right time. It's very planned out, it's very practiced, and it is very consistent in the way they do things. So what's the real secret to winning barbecue competitions? Time, money, consistency, relentless practice, drive and execution, all of the hard things really. And I was not ready for that epiphany, to be honest, because with a 3-year-old and an 8-month-old at home, and I'm at a very busy time in my life, I don't know if I have the amount of time and energy and money to commit to doing what it takes to actually winning barbecue competitions and getting accepted to the American Royal and the Jack under my own team. But I'm very grateful to be competing with top teams like this so I can learn, and who knows, maybe at one point in my life, a couple of years from now, I'll be able to dedicate the amount of time and energy it takes to actually win barbecue competitions. You can follow Notorious P.I.G on Instagram. I'll link them below, and follow them on their journey to the Jack and the American Royal. I'll be attending the Royal with them later this year, and I'll be posting a video about that. So until next time, happy smoking.
The thing that most people don't realize about barbecue is you don't use wood in the fire.
Whoa, whoa!
No, we'll share it. We'll share it.
She's good. Okay, she's done.
You have to smoke the wood first,
Oh, that's next level.
right? Most people probably just put wood on the fire.
They just put raw wood without any smoke flavor on it.
Losers.
Well, thank you guys.
That's seasoned.
No?
Nice.
And that rack is going to be
Sure about that?
Don't share that.
hella